Hello and welcome to the walkthrough of my new Quake single-player map, Penitentiary, set in the underground prison holding demons and other foul creatures. So, as we can see, we came through an elevator. As we walk through, a couple guards facing us. This is meant to serve as kind of an introductory area for the player. As we move on, we can see just facing some grunts shouldn't cause the player too many issues. These grunts are currently stationary. Normally, you'd want to have the guards kind of patrolling just to give them the idea of movement, especially if the player sees them first. However, because I've set a trigger right behind this door, the moment that player enters that doorway, these guards are triggered, and so they'll already be on the move. These guards are placed a little further back. They will still be triggered, but it gives the player a little bit more time to deal with those enemies first before these ones come in. So we face these guards. These guards, you might have already killed them as they're shooting you through this window. A little bit of storage area with some ammo for weapons that the player currently doesn't have, the Thunderbolt and the grenade launcher. This is meant mostly so that we don't have to put a bunch of ammo near the grenade launcher in order to... It's meant to serve kind of as a preliminary stockpile for the player. Some patrolling enemies, guards and dogs, as well as a kennel area over here with more dogs, before we reach the first real fight of the map. So for here we have the first time we faced an enforcer, some dogs, some grunts, as well as giving the player the super shotgun to help them take care of this area, which has more enemies than they might be used to from the previous area. If they're fast, they might also duck into this closet and grab some armor. But either way, all the enemies here will be slain, and they'll be able to press this button. When they do, they can see that the lock on that door kind of go down the middle one, as well as all the enemies in this area would be triggered, and so they'll start firing at the player. The player must make their way down and deal with them. So this area is meant to be the central hub of this map. The player will be returning here multiple times with more enemies spawning in here every single time. And it's meant to just kind of be a rather impressive area to look at, just from the sheer size and amount of enemies. Once the player clears it, they are unable to press this button. They need to remove those last two locks. They can go either left or right. Either way, doesn't matter. No way is not able to be completed without going the other way first, so it doesn't matter which side they take. Here we're faced with some zombies, which the player is currently unable to kill. They'll be able to knock them down, but without the grenade launcher or rocket launcher, they're unable to do any permanent damage. And so they must kind of just rush through on their own. This room is one of my favorite set pieces, simply because I wanted it to feel like a jailbreak going on in this map, and so I want to cause as much infighting as possible. Infighting in Quake's mechanic, where if enemies shoot each other, they'll turn around and start fighting each other rather than the player. And so to cause that, I've placed these guards all slightly behind the zombies, all facing the door. So the moment the player enters that door, when the guards shoot, they're fairly likely to hit the zombies and cause some infighting. So make our way into this room, where it's the first time the player is faced with the knight. I want to kind of slowly ramp up on the types of encounters the player must go through. And to help them overcome this encounter, where there's a lot of melee enemies, as well as some grunts and enforcer back here, giving them explosive barrel to make use of, as well as just some ammo and health packs to keep them stocked up. We enter this room. There is a Death Knight, first thing the player is made aware of. The Death Knight will be rushing towards them as, again, triggered at the moment this door opens. And so their attention is likely to be focused there, and not on the small knight who is sneaking around the side. The player is able to come from an alternate route, so they may come through this way, where the knight's the first thing they see, and this Death Knight is the surprise. Some more zombies in this area. The player is unable to take care of them still until they reach the grenade launcher in here. Some more grunts, another enforcer. Kind of just the last guards on the lock. So with that lock removed, we'll be able to make our way back to the central area. This is the alternate route I spoke of. Some zombies, Death Knight, normal knight. Again, in order to keep up the kind of the ramping encounters, we have if they come from this area, they have to face a normal knight first before facing the Death Knight. And so we make our way all the way back to the central area. Over here, the cells have opened up with more enemies inside, as well as some ammo to keep the player stocked up. We can see here zombies have spawned in, a death knight over here, as well as a normal knight over here and over there. These grunts and the dogs would already have been killed by the player the first time they came around, so they're just still here because we didn't do that. So, an ogre for the first time we face if they go through the right area. The grenade launchers in this enclosed area might be a little dangerous. However, the player is able to take cover in here. And so, once they do that, they're faced with a locked area over here and 2 doors. If they go through the right door, it's mostly blocked off. However, they can get through an area where they face the Death Knight, as well as a bunch of explosive barrels. However, if they are able to overcome this encounter, they have some armor. A little bit of challenge, not necessary for the player to go through, but if they want some extra armor, it's there. Over here we have another Death Knight, possibly the first one that the player will face if they go through the right area first. Make our way over here. Another ogre, nothing major. However, they will face a fiend for the first time. For the first time. And so, in this area, I made it a little bit wider. That way, the player has plenty of room to maneuver. And once they clear these enemies, they'll turn the corner, only to be faced with the Vor. Another very dangerous enemy, especially in such short succession with the fiend. However, due to this, how this room is laid out again, the player is pretty easily able to take cover behind this wall as they take pot shots at the Vor. Moving on, a little bit of stockpile before we come to the next area. More ogres, another fiend, nothing major. More guards, another enforcer, nothing major, but they are able to get the next lock. So all this, once the player has kind of learned how to deal with these enemies, this area shouldn't be too difficult. Surprise fiend, if the player isn't careful, it'll pounce on them the moment they enter the store. And they face Scrags for the first time. So right now, we're kind of getting to... The player's in a pretty stable position right now. They're moving through the area fairly competently, I'd assume, as they've gotten used to facing all these enemies. Over here, just a little bit of a health area. Mostly meant for a little bit of comedy here, as this lone guard is hiding away in a closet far away from everything else. And so... But once the player has kind of gotten used to everything, we come to another major set piece, the holding cells. A fairly foreboding area for the player to see. This area is locked, and so the only way to get through is to press this button. When they do, pillars rise out from the ground, and more enemies spawn in. So the whole point of this area is that more and more enemies will slowly spawn in over time, as we can see here, as the pillars rise up, as well as some health packs. Ammo crates will also be rising up in the pillars to keep the player stocked up as the fight goes on. This will be a drawn-out encounter, as it gets more and more difficult, more and more frantic as more enemies spawn in. Likely far faster than the player is able to kill them. However, I did specifically choose enemies with lots of ranged attacks, as we have Death Knights here with their wide AoE flame attack, as well as some ogres with grenade launchers, Scrags with projectiles, and so, again, because I want this to feel like Jailbreak, lots of infighting will be caused here, especially if the player is running around more than they're shooting. The enemies will likely cause a lot of damage to each other. 4 spawns in, 2 rather, 1 on each side. And so once the player has taken care of all these enemies, after 20 seconds pass, the locked door will open. And so player, they can play more passively as they try to evade and let the enemies do damage to each other, or they could take the aggressive route. Either way, this door will open, and they're rewarded with a Thunderbolt. We come back through here, more cells have opened up with some loot, just kind of stocking the player up for the last 2 encounters. More enemies have spawned in here, zombies, some ogres, and a fiend. Once the player has taken care of all these, they're able to press this button, and the central doors open, or at least one does, containing the Shambler. A very dangerous enemy, however, because it's so open and because the player will have their attention right here, as well as having the Thunderbolt if they didn't waste all the ammo on the previous fight, then they should be able to take care of it quickly. If they don't, however, they may be surprised by the 2 other doors that open up with some fiends and some Scrags. So if the player isn't quick and doesn't take care of the shambler quickly enough, things will only get more dangerous for them. So let's real quick, I'm just going to jump ahead and kill all these enemies. Alright, now that all the enemies have been cleared out, the area beneath the button will open up to a portal that ends the level. Thank you for taking a quick look at my map, and if you want to check it out more or play it yourself, you could check out the GitHub link below.